Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Patriot TV. I'm your host, JD Rucker. And what a day it was last night. Poor Democrats. Are they going to make it? I mean, serious question. Are they going to make it? Is this their last hurrah? Have they officially been taken over by the Democrat Socialists of America? They have their first full fledged, technically non DSA member. He claims that he's not a DSA member. We'll see how long that lasts. I mean, we know that when he gets in, if he wins, if he's able to beat Mike Rogers, that Abdul, what's his name? Abdul El Said. That Abdul El Said will quickly become a full-fledged, full, total, absolute radical leftist, radical Marxist, on top of being an Islamist. At the same time, we know this is going to happen. We've already the cards are already on the table. The whatever the writings on the wall. We'll use a Daniel reference. There's all sorts of references we can use because he is definitely going to do that. But for now, he's still claiming that he's not. But before we get to that, I got to throw this out there. It was sent to me by a friend who happens to be, it's crazy, he happens to be kind of one of those not never Trump, he was very much pro-Trump. He's sort of changed his perspective on President Trump over the last few months. And yeah, I understand there's actually a growing number of those people out there. I'm not. I'll criticize Trump all the time. I do it pretty much all the time. But I still fully support President Trump. Not because I'm brainwashed or I'm part of a cult or anything like that. But because, number one, I know, yeah, there have been some bad decisions, but mostly good decisions. He's faced headwinds from the judiciary, headwinds from the Republican-controlled Congress. They're just not putting anything on paper. I mean, nothing at all. It's ludicrous. So I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just telling you that I will criticize him, but I also still 100% support him. But there is a growing faction of Republicans, conservatives, especially in the podcastosphere. Okay, let's be real here. I would say average grassroots Republican out there is just fine. You know, maybe not completely happy, not liking their gas bill, not liking their food bill. But still, for the most part, you know, they see the alternative. They see what the Democrats are doing. They're like, yeah, not perfect, but still fine. Whereas those of us in podcastosphere, those, whether you're doing a show or watching shows, listening to shows, there's a good chance that you might have become infected with this Trump hate. So this guy, not Trump hate, just losing patience, we'll say, with Trump. This guy sent me this piece, and I didn't read it, but the headline I thought was pretty funny. From the Babylon Bee, Trump warns Iran this is their fourth to last chance at peace. I know I shouldn't laugh at that. I should. It is funny. You know, it's true. I mean, we all hear, oh, okay, here it comes. You know, this is it. This is the last chance. We bombed the hell out of them. They said, let's go to the table. We went to the table. They didn't show up at the table. Now we're going to bomb the hell out of them again. And that's you know, rinse, repeat. I saw somebody say that this is like the 55th time that they've had a last chance. Look, it's not that bad, number one. It's not. It hasn't been that many times. Been a few, admittedly. But I don't think we've reached ludicrous speed yet. Now, I don't know. Assuming that things do fall apart once or twice more before something finally happens. And I don't know what that finally is, to be clear. I'm still against boots on the ground. Still against doing anything that doesn't work in our interests. But with that said, the way that Iran has positioned itself regarding the Strait of Hormuz, unfortunately, it's in our best interests to keep hitting them until they stop. You know, you hate to do it because they're already beaten down so badly, but we don't know where they're getting their weapons. Could it be China? Could it be Russia? Could it be both? Do they have manufacturing facilities that give them enough drones? We weren't able to take out all the facilities, and now they can bust out with 50 new awesome killer drones a day, because that's all it would take. It's not like they have to produce 1,000 drones. They just have to produce 40 or 50, and they can control the Strait of Hormuz. So I don't know what the solution is, but I'm not giving up quite yet. I know a lot of people are, though, and that's a shame. I got two things going today. Number one, I am going to, for those who watch my show, the J.D. Rucker Show, not Patriot TV, if you watched the J.D. Rucker Show yesterday, then later on, close to the end of the show, before we do our raid of the Wendy Bell radio program, I will be replaying the second world premiere of my first Blessed report. We'll be playing it for the one time and one time only on Patriot TV, because I want to see. I got a lot of excellent input, from playing it during the J.D. Rucker Show, which airs live at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, on a different channel if you're watching on Patriot TV right now. Yeah, so I aired it then, got lots of good feedback. I want to air it for you all, my wonderful Patriot TV audience. And that won't happen yet. I'll do that again closer to the end, because a lot of people who are on this show watching today already saw it, and I don't want to put them all through it. But we'll save that for the end. In the meantime, I am going to highlight a sponsor. I'm hoping that this is still relevant. It was a last-minute decision. I loaded it up in the queue, and then I thought, I got to watch it, and then I forgot to watch it, and the next thing I know, we're live. So I'm seeing this for the first time, at least the first time in several months, and I'm hoping that it doesn't say something like Christmas sale or anything. I mean, you'll be able to tell it's old because you'll see my background is different, my hair is different. I'm probably, at least 4 or 5 months handsomer, or maybe 4 or 5 months uglier. Who knows? Maybe I age like a fine wine, or maybe I age like cheese, or maybe I age like a man, in which case, yeah, I will be a few months older. But let's play that, and then we'll get into the show. For the highest quality long-term storage food in the market, go to jdrucker.com/food, jdrucker.com/food, and use promo code PATRIOT for a very nice discount. All right, I'm going to do something to you all right now that you're not going to like, but you're going to have to sit through it. It's important that you do sit through this, because we need to know our enemy. We need to understand them, understand how they think, how they act, what motivates them, and perhaps most importantly, what they would do if they get into power. Now, we already know, I've talked about this ad nauseum. You've probably heard other people talking about Democrats, Socialists of America want to do this, and they want to do that, and they want to do this, and it's all awful. I mean, it's horrible. They're Marxists. They're straight up commie blanks, and yeah, it's really bad. But there's also another aspect to it, and that's the way that they communicate. And we have to understand this, because keep in mind that there are so many people out there, not just college students, not just high school students, not just young adults. There are other people, even people that you may know. God forbid, but you might actually know one of those people that they just fall for the whatever leftist propaganda they're fed. And this lady, her name is Brianna Joy Gray. Brianna Joy Gray. She's a former comms director of some sort for Bernie Sanders. Now she is something, I don't know what her role is with the Democratic Socialists of America, but she's going out, doing her rounds, doing some interviews, and talking about it. Talking about candidates, talking about whatever. Well, Piers Morgan cornered her with what should have been very simple. It's super simple questions. And it rapidly devolved into what I would say may be the most excruciating panel interview that I've ever heard. So again, I apologize up front for forcing you to watch it, but you do need to. You need to suffer through this, because it's going to make us stronger, understanding that our enemy, they're loud, they're obnoxious, they're impolite and rude and all that good stuff. And apparently, they're retarded.
It's very interesting, your interpretation of what defund means. As Joe Walsh rightly says, the actual interpretation of defund the police or defund the Pentagon or whatever it may be is you get rid of that institution and you replace it with something else.
What you're talking, English peers,
this is why. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So I'm asking you whether you mean a decrease in the amount that you fund these organizations with, or do you believe in abolishing them? Would you abolish the police? Would you abolish the Pentagon? Would you abolish prisons? Yes, no, yes, no, yes,
If you want to know what me, Brianna Joy Gray thinks, you can come on my show and we can debate my views at length. But I think what the viewers want to know is what
my
the
questions.
DSA
That's why you're here.
believe. No, why we're here is
That's why you're here.
the DSA candidates and people who are running for office, not one 40-year-old woman sitting in her apartment in Washington, D.C. So if you want to talk about what the movements to defund the Pentagon are about,
can you answer my questions, please?
Wait, it's about asking the question of whether or not we should continuously increase funding an unprecedentedly high military budget year after
That's
year
not what
to
defund
an
means.
institution that literally fails its audits and can't even account for where the money is going.
Brianna, defund means no money for,
should be
period.
funded more. I'm sorry,
no
Joe?
money for.
Defund means you abolish it.
No, those are two different words.
Let me try one more time.
Piers, that you use two different words there.
Let me try one more time. Given you don't know what defund actually means.
Oh, I know what defund means a lot better than you do, Piers, as evidenced by the fact that you chose to pivot to abolish, because you can discern a distinct difference between those two terms. Defunding, just like when Republicans say they want to defund the Department of Education, they want to defund things day and night. The whole point of DOGE was to defund the national government. And again, I don't see all the hand wringing about that. The Pentagon, no one here can answer the direct question of whether or not they believe the Pentagon, which has an unprecedentedly large budget that cannot pass an audit for 8-9 years in a row, should get increased funding.
Let me try.
Do you think that's the case, Joe?
Okay,
Do you think that's the case, Piers?
Brianna, once again, it's my show, so I do the questions, and then you answer them, or you choose not to. I'm just going to repeat again, whatever your interpretation of defund is, and you clearly have a different one to mine and Joe's, okay.
Mine is the English dictionary.
Let's park that debate for one moment. Well, it actually means to stop providing money, or it can mean to reduce the amount of money. So it depends what interpretation
it can. I'm glad you've acknowledged that now, Piers.
But as you know, in the general debate about this, it's been accepted that when people have said defund, they mean abolish. So let me just clarify with you what you personally believe. Would you, in your utopia world, would you abolish the Pentagon, abolish the police, and abolish prisons? Yes or no?
Piers, it's wild that you talk about the general debate about this when you're the one hosting the debate and creating the ambiguity by posing questions exactly like that.
Answer the questions.
Defund means
Brianna, would you abolish those institutions?
Means get rid of entirely. That is a clear answer to your question. Defund means decrease funding for.
Would you?
Abolish means abolish entirely. Period.
I'm asking you if you would abolish them. Would you abolish them?
Why do you care what I personally, Brianna Joy Gray, I know why you care,
because you're a guest on my show.
No, because you want to make this a conversation about whatever. I am to the left, way to the left.
I just want to know what you think. Why is this so difficult? This is excruciating.
This is not a referendum on me. This is a referendum on the actual DSA and the candidates that you are frustrated are winning races because they're overwhelmingly popular. I'm not running for office.
Brianna, you were invited as a guest onto a panel to debate the future of the Democratic Party in light of the rise of the Democratic Socialists.
So let's debate that.
So
and not
I'm
my
asking you.
beliefs.
Wait a minute, Brianna.
About the Democratic Party and the DSA and the candidates that are running under those banners.
Given that I'm going to keep talking over you if you keep talking. Given that the Democratic Socialist candidates espouse a philosophy where they want to abolish all these institutions, I'm just asking you, Brianna, whether you personally would like to abolish the Pentagon, the police, and prisons. Yes or no?
Brianna, think it's Brianna with a ah sound. Think it's absolutely unconscionable that you can say a kind of mealy mouth, yeah, I think it was really bad that ICE murdered American citizens in the street, but want to make this a referendum of whether one socialist, happen to believe in abolishing those programs. To me, the answer is yes. The absolute long-term goal. I just answered the question.
Yes or no?
1 second. The long-term.
Yes
to
or
me,
no?
The answer is affirmatively yes.
Yes or no, Brianna?
Personally, absolutely. Me, Brianna Joy Gray, since the world is clamoring for my one woman's opinion, absolutely do believe in abolish the police, abolish the Senate, abolish the Pentagon. I do not think the American war machine, which has caused unfathomable horrors across the globe for the entirety of all of our living memory, should persist.
Got it. We've got that.
Absolutely, the Pentagon
is a force for evil in the world. Pierce.
I think the police.
We got it. We got it. We got you on the record.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
We got it. We got it. Brianna. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Brianna, it's okay. Sorry, Brianna, just to be clear, you've agreed you would abolish the.
Yes.
Wait a minute, Brianna. Please stop talking. You would abolish the Pentagon and the police. You said, what about prisons? Would you abolish prisons?
Oh, they're first on the list. Just like the DSA, Megan Romer said.
Great, okay. Let me go through all of it. Great, no, it's all right. We're done.
Let me be clear.
We're done. We're done.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
For the second time in 2 days, I'm going to be talking about the WNBA, and Lord willing, it'll be the last time I do a double header of that particular league. But this story caught my attention, and I thought, you know what, let's talk about it. We've got the summary of the Breitbart article over at discern.tv. If you're watching the screen, you can see that this guy, his name is Julie Tétart. He's French, so I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sure. But, you know, he's slim, he's muscular, he's a little older, 34 years old. He's 6'3", which, for those who don't know, in the NBA, that'd be about a mid-sized point guard, a small shooting guard, maybe. But here in the WNBA, in the French version of the WNBA, he is a center. Not only is he a center, but he averages 20 boards a game, 20 rebounds a game. I mean, we're talking about Dennis Rodman style numbers, you know, Malone. But yeah, he got named Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Domestic Player of the Year. He didn't get the MVP award, and of course the trans community were all sorts of annoyed by that, because he and another transgender player, Aurore Pauto, they were dominant, and yet they didn't get the nod to be the MVP. Tétart was initially called a WNBA career an unfortunately not possible dream, but hey, they're having some confusion over there at the WNBA. They're having some confusion about women. They don't know what a woman is, apparently. You know, they're not scientifically qualified to be able to determine such things. Now, according to Representative Nancy Mace, who did actually, you know what? I'm just going to play it. I've got it here. Let's just play it, because I think she did a great job of trying to explain to the WNBA what a woman is.
I want to help the WNBA with something totally free of charge. WNBA, 4 letters. Let's take a look at them one by one. W is for women. That's it. You can stop watching now. Except apparently we need to keep going, because there are 4 head coaches in the league who cannot get past the first letter. 4 in a 4-letter league. One says inclusion includes trans women. One wore a t-shirt about it to a game, which respect, because that t-shirt is the most detailed policy statement anybody in the league has ever issued. A t-shirt. One said his focus is on just being a basketball coach, which honestly, most coherent answer of the bunch. The guy knows his lane. And the 4th is Sophie Cunningham's own coach, Stephanie White, who says she's not educated enough on the science to have an opinion on what a woman is. Ma'am, you are one, and you've had a lifetime to study. It's also the first word in the name of the organization that signs their paychecks. They're not being asked to perform surgery here. They're being asked a question on the bathroom door, and they failed. But here's the thing, the league already answered this in writing in March. The WNBA's contract with its players, 409 pages, Article 13, Section 1, and I'll read it exactly as written, quote, only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. Their words, not mine. Now, 409 pages, a room full of lawyers billing by the hour, and somewhere in there, they found time to define rookie, they found time to define the word veteran, the word team, they even defined, quote, regular season, in case anybody got confused about which season was the, quote, regular one. Nobody had the courage to define woman. The words transgender or gender identity don't appear in there at all. 409 pages and the subject never comes up, so that's not an oversight. So reporters went and asked. They asked the league, they asked the players' union. Their entire existence is representing women. And one question, what is a woman? Nothing but silence. Hell, Tim Walz answered the question better in an oversight hearing than any of them. So their position is only women can play in the WNBA, but nobody can define what one is. Total oxymoron. That's like saying jumbo and shrimp in the same sentence. And I know a little something about an institution that had to decide whether women counted. The Citadel spent 150 years working that out. And when they finally did, they passed with flying colors because they weren't confused. And they'll tell you in the WNBA, this is all hypothetical, it's never happened before. Great, even better, it never should. So then writing what a woman down is should cost them nothing. They're telling us it's not a problem, but also can't spare a word to define a real biological woman. One woman did answer, and they came for her. Sophie Cunningham said girls shouldn't have to compete against biological men. She got called a stain on society. She got called a racist because apparently being pro-woman now means you hate black people. 4 coaches lined up to explain why she was wrong. And when they asked her to walk it back, Sophie Cunningham's response, I said what I said.
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children. And that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Good. Women fought for that W. Title IX put it into law, and 50 years of athletes built it into something worth paying to watch on TV. And every single one of them was a woman. A Waffle House placemat is a better legal document than the WNBA contract, because a category you can't define is a category you can't defend.
Well, there you have it, folks. It's in the contract. It's in the players' agreement. It's right there. You got to be a woman. Now we just got to figure out what a woman is, because apparently, I don't know if it's a majority, but at least the loudest people outside of Sophie Cunningham, the loudest people in the WNBA, coaches, players, they're all saying, "Oh yeah, no, we want, if they're a trans woman is a woman." Well, if that's the case, there's no definition of what a woman is in the current player contract, player agreement. Therefore, one would assume that if the WNBA is going to stand by what appears to be a majority of their members, they would say, yeah, trans player is perfectly fine. Trans woman, man, whatever. I always get confused, So maybe Julie Tatart has a potential. Now, President Trump came out and made some funnies yesterday, I think it was, when he said that he thought that LeBron James should go temporary trans and go join the WNBA and just to prove a point. And we know, look, this isn't just a matter of we know that men would dominate. You don't even have to get, NBA superstars. You could get college players, and according to Clay Travis, you can get good high school players to dominate the WNBA. Okay? Get teen boys with skills, and they can dominate in the WNBA for sure. We know that, but here's the other thing. They know that as well. There's this fear There's the greatest fear amongst people groups in the world right now. We're seeing it in England. We're seeing it across Europe. We're seeing it oftentimes here in the United States, where there's this fear of being called Islamophobic. But they've got some competition, okay? They do, because the LGBTQIA plus supremacy community, they're trying to strike fear into anybody that doesn't allow, trans people to be dominant in every form or fashion. And so, when I look at these WNBA coaches out there wearing their "I love trans kids" shirts and whatever, you got James Tallarico loving trans kids, thinks about them all the time apparently. You've got all of these wokesters out there just talking about this stuff as if we're supposed to ignore science, we're supposed to ignore common sense. Well, they do drive fear. And what we're seeing in the NBA, or the WNBA, probably the NBA too, if they were asked, what we're seeing in the WNBA is not a result of them not understanding science or them thinking that their girls could actually beat qualified, athletic, talented boys. They don't think that. They just know that if they go against the LGBTQIA plus supremacy community, that they'll get attacked, and that terrifies them.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
The final chapter of the January 6th prosecution debacle appears to have finally come to a close, and not without at least some resistance from the judge. According to the article that we have over at patriot.tv, Obama judge whines after being forced to erase Oath Keeper's conviction as January 6th prosecution finally collapsed. This is, Lord willing, the last one that we'll ever have to hear about again. That's not to say that we won't ever hear about January 6th. That's the left's favorite topic still 5 years later. According to the article, the last major January 6th cases just got wiped off the books, and an Obama-appointed judge is not happy about it. On Tuesday, U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta granted the Justice Department's request to dismiss the seditious conspiracy charges against Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes and 7 other members of the group. It's over. It's done. And he didn't have a choice. This isn't something he's doing willingly. He's doing it because you can't force the prosecution to prosecute a case that they have asked to not prosecute. Basically, the judge exhausted all of his potential recourses and said, all right, fine, case dismissed, see you later. He called the dismissal an epilogue that diminishes the gravity of that day because, it was worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11, worse than the Holocaust, worse than anything, according to the left, including this judge. January 6th was arguably the worst day in human history. And people need to pay. 18 years. That's how long Stuart Rhodes was supposed to be rotting in jail. Praise God that this debacle, this prosecutorial attack against conservatives is finally over.
I'm glad. I need the rest.
Got to roll out my my clip from The Fugitive. Hadn't used that one yet. It was finally the perfect opportunity. So let's talk about the Democrats a bit further. As I said, I was sweating overnight because NBC News called Abdul El-Shahid very early. Saeed, not Shahid. Called that race very early, and Daily Mail followed suit, but then nobody else did. I was watching it overnight. I was waiting. I had posted an article over on at AmericaFirstReport.com that highlighted it, and I was getting scared because it was like he was up by 3 points, then he was up by 2 points, then he was up by 1 point, and then he was up by less than 1 point, and then apparently it was exhausted all the way down till they just couldn't, I guess, manufacture any more late night Wayne County votes. They tried. I think they tried. And I was kind of hoping for it. Well, not kind of. I was very much hoping for it, to be clear. Let me take this off real quick. I was very much hoping for it because I wanted to say, see, this is what they do. They cheat. They cheated Bernie, and now they have the opportunity. And they cheated Abdul, and I know that. I think Fox News even currently has up as their top headline that Republicans got the candidate that they wanted out of this race. I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree for two reasons. Number one, I don't want the risk at all. Okay? Let me start with number two, and then we'll get back to number one, because I want to elaborate on that number one. Number two, we're not ready to have the argument against the DSA. We're still calling them socialists. We need, I would say, one more cycle in order for us, for me, and other people to sort of train the GOP, train the strategists, train the other podcasters, other show hosts into addressing the DSA in terms that can actually greatly impact not just the Republicans don't need impact. I would say over half of the independents don't need that impact. They're already scared of the DSA. But there are still a lot of Democrats who don't quite feel the fear. You know, we had, there was, I forgot who it was, had did one of those man on the street interviews. And this lady was just like, yeah, no, I completely disagree with him, but I'm still going to vote for them, you know, because we've got to get rid of Trump. We've got to get rid of the Republicans. We got to be able to reach those people. We got to be able to figure this out. And I would much rather have that debate with these people when we're ready and when Trump's not on the ballot. Okay, Trump's still on the ballot because, again, even though he's not running this midterm, this will impact the second half of his second term. So this is why the Democrats' strategy before the DSA came around, started winning primaries, their strategy was still to go after Trump, to force Trump on the ballot, thinking that would be enough to get a lot of people on their side. Now, it would have been a failed strategy. DSA came along, everything's all screwed, right? Now the Democrat Party looks like they're in shambles because they are. But the reason that I did want to have at least part of the argument now is because this is sort of a safe zone. Call it a practice, right? Practice. Up in Michigan, where you do have a lot of independents, it's a very purple state. It's like, okay, we'll have because we're not going to debate them in most of the other races where there is a Democrat socialist involved, or in going in the general, there's either not a Republican, like in Philadelphia, Chris Rabb, he's running against, he already won. He's done. He's already, might as well swear him in, give him a seat. He's already in Congress. He ran, after he won his primary, there is nobody else to beat on election day. And the ones in New York, there may be another candidate. There may be a Republican on the ballot, but it's not going to matter because these are 80-20 districts. Michigan is not. And so I thought, you know what, we can have this one. We'll focus hard on this one. So that's reason number two that I wanted him. But reason number one is, by golly, we better win this one. I mean, this would be devastating. This is inching up there close to being, it's definitely at least my second, and it's really getting close to being tied as my first, the most important national race, DC race out there right now. Number one, I think, is still James Tallarico versus Ken Paxton. I think we have to win that because James Tallarico is an abomination, a heretic. It is the state of Texas. They haven't won there with a statewide race since the 90s. That would be horrible if Tallarico were to win on multiple angles. But here's the thing. If, with this confidence, again, Fox News saying Republicans got the candidate that they wanted, okay, well, they better deliver. This is again, similar to Tallarico. Abdul El-Sayed is somebody who absolutely, positively cannot win. I would rather have Troy Jackson in Maine. Okay? I'd rather take that. I'd rather John Ossoff stay and continue to win. These are very bad people. But I'd be okay with them if it meant that we did not get Talarico and El Said. Those two men are dangerous for different reasons. And both of them, the biggest reason for both of them happens to be their faith. James Talarico claims to be a Christian. He gives Christians a bad name. He destroys the Bible. Every time he speaks in any regard about faith, even if he's not talking about Christianity, even when he's talking about how he's learned so much from the Quran, as much as he's learned from the Bible, these are things that you don't hear from somebody who allegedly attended seminary and who's allegedly a pastor. He would be an abomination to the Christian faith if he were to make it into the United States Senate. As far as El Said, he represents, obviously, the Islamist side. He is the Red Green Alliance, very similar to Zohran Mamdani. But Zohran Mamdani is just the mayor of a city. An important city, the most important city, granted. I'm not trying to downplay his influence. But when it comes to national politics, having Abdul El Said winning in a race that he's not supposed to be able to win, which got all these commentators out there, I think it was Town Hall or somebody, who said, Republicans should be very pleased with the results of him winning. I'm not pleased. I don't want the risk. Okay? I don't. I don't want to risk it. I mean, I'm not a fan of Mike Rogers. I'm just going to say it. I won't say that anymore because I want him to win. On one hand, not a fan, kind of milquetoast, lukewarm. On the other hand, existential threat. Somebody who can be just one more domino that gets pushed over that's leading towards the destruction of the United States of America. Yeah, I'll take the Rhino. Just like as much as I dislike Susan Collins, I'd still take her over Troy Jackson any day. I didn't used to be like this. There was a time, and I've told this story before on my other show, but I'll tell it here. There was a time not too long ago, we're talking within a decade, where I was staunch. I used to say, you know what? There is no difference between a rhino and a Democrat, and if anything, if we can make the rhinos lose, then we have an opportunity to run against a Democrat the next time they're up. And so I would rather be able to put in, during the primaries, a constitutional conservative to run against them, get rid of the rhinos. It's not that I would necessarily cheer for Mitt Romney to lose, but part of me wanted him to. For the long term, I think it would have been better in those cases. Those days are behind us. The very absolute worst Republican out there is still far better, unfortunately, than the best Democrat. We'll say John Fetterman is the best Democrat. Okay? Say, is he better than Susan Collins, the ultimate rhino, or Lisa Murkowski? No, he's not, unfortunately. I wish he was. People say, why don't we trade you Murkowski for Fetterman? We don't want Fetterman. He's still a Democrat. Okay? And he's not even that moderate if you look at his voting record. He happens to step up when it counts. So I appreciate him. I appreciate what he's done. But we'll see if that's still the case if he's in the Senate when the Democrats have a majority. Is he going to be a Joe Manchin? Or is he going to fall in line? I don't know the answer to that question, but the point being is that even he is far to the right of every single other Democrat senator. And the moderate Democrat senators are still far to the right of these radicals. Bernie Sanders is no longer the most radical member of government, not in this next term. Not with the members that are coming into, that have already been. Chris Rabb is, full-blown defund the police guy. All of the New Yorkers, the New York candidates, the DSA members that won their primaries, they're to the left of Bernie Sanders. And he's trying to shift over. Okay. He came out the other day, maybe yesterday, and said, "Yeah, of course I want Hassan Piker to be on our team. We have a big tent. They love that word, big tent. Well, guess what? You got a big tent, and the people that you let into your big tent, they're in the process of burning your big tent down." I'm laughing, but it's sad. We are witnessing the demise of the Democrat Party. And yes, that is something to celebrate, but only if Republicans are able to deliver, and only if the bounce back, because we live in this two-party system. There's always the ebb and flow. I don't care how bad it is. We're 2 to 4 years away from being completely reversed. We had some great times with President Reagan. We had 8 solid years where it's like, oh, wow, Republicans have really come along. They've really proven themselves. People have seen it. They've prospered. This has done so much for the Republican Party. And all it took was one George H.W. Bush. All it took was one term of George H.W. Bush to get us Bill Clinton. So there will be a rebuild. America loves an underdog. And if the Democrats fail miserably, if they implode like they're doing right now, whether the DSA is able to completely take over or not, they're in big trouble. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. Their big tent is burning. And they know it. They do know it. They look at the fundraising. They look at everything else that's happening to their party. They look at the policies that are being recommended. They watch the interviews. They see the polls. They understand what the people are saying. A lot of times we always say, oh, they don't care. They don't listen to the people. They do. During election time, they do. They have to, or they pay other people to do it for them, to give them the shortened version. Nowadays, they probably run it all through AI anyway. But they know what's happening. And they do see it. They do realize that they have certain challenges. This is why. It's funny. They came out with a new revised list. They added 11 more names to their target. 11 more members of Congress. The DCCC added more names to what they call vulnerable Republicans. Republicans we're going to target. That's how much confidence we have. It's a ploy. It's a lie. They don't actually have confidence that these seats are really in play. They're just the closest thing to being in single digits for the Republican. And it's like, let's throw this out there. This will send the message that we're very confident. It will give us a talking point that is different from, hey, what do you think about the Democratic Socialists of America? Because that's what they're all getting asked every day. They're sick of it. They don't want to be asked that anymore. It's funny. I don't know if it's a flaw or if it's a benefit. I should say, it's depending upon the circumstance, it is both a flaw and a benefit to have our mercurial style of elections in government. We could never do what, for example, a Vladimir Putin or a Xi Jinping, none of our presidents could ever do what they were able to do or what they have been able to do. I'm not suggesting that their form of government is superior. Obviously, it's not. Obviously, these are very bad dudes who have worked against the United States of America for decades. But we can't mount that. We can't counter that. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe anytime any idea, any concept is out there, out and about for too long, it does start to deteriorate. It starts to rot. It starts to get long in the tooth. So, do we have the benefit of consistency within government? No, we do not. Do we have the true benefit of a government that is always fresh? It makes long-term plans hard. And one can argue that because of the shortened scale of our election cycle, that's why the national debt they were talking about kicking that can down the road before we reached $1 trillion. and now we're at 40. It's insane how bad it's gotten, and it is because of our shortened election cycles. The point I'm trying to get at, and the reason that I say all this, is that the title of today's show is The Demise of the Democrats. But it's a short-term demise. Even if everything implodes, as it appears to be doing right now, in real time, they're 2 to 4 years away from being completely rebuilt, completely redeemed, and all of a sudden, they have the upper hand. That's the nature of American politics. That's the nature of what the founders built. And while there are obviously deficiencies, I would say that the benefits of this style of government, the benefits of the shortened election cycles, greatly outweigh any of the detriments. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and play the aforementioned spiritual wickedness video that I played during the J.D. Rucker show yesterday. I'm going to play it for you all, the Patriot TV audience. Let me know what you think. Give me some feedback. You can do so by, I got a lot of feedback yesterday. I want to get some feedback from you all. jdrucker.com/talk. jdrucker.com/talk. This is something that I would like to be able to do as a separate show. This will be the only time it ever plays on Patriot TV. The discussion here is to have a separate show called The Blessed Report, or just Blessed Report, no the. Have a separate show called Blessed Report that comes on once a week, maybe more. We'll see. But again, I want your feedback because this is a scripted show. This isn't like this isn't like today's show, which is obviously unscripted. So you tell me. Keep it, change it, fix it, lengthen it, shorten it, whatever. I want to hear from you. jdrucker.com/talk. Most of us have been trained to think of evil the wrong way. We think of villains. We picture the corrupt politician, the predatory executive, the ideologue with a megaphone. And to be sure, such people do exist, but if we believe Scripture, they are rarely the origin of the evil they carry out. They are just instruments. The battle lines of this world do not run between the good people and the bad people. They run through every human heart, including yours and mine. Paul told the church at Ephesus exactly where the conflict lies. He wrote in his letter, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." That, of course, is Ephesians 6:12, one of my favorites of all time. But if we wrestle not against flesh and blood, then our fixation on flesh and blood enemies is a category error and a convenient one for the actual enemy. There are 3 fronts in this war worth examining. There is the enemy without, there's the deception of the good, and then there's the traitor within. The materialist frame of our society insists that everything has a human explanation. Therefore, it has a human solution. Fix the policy, remove the person, reform the institution, and the evil will go away. Anyone who's ever watched evil simply change addresses after such reforms knows better. Paul knew better too, writing in his letter to the church of Corinth in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 3 and 4. He wrote, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds." Peter goes further and describes an adversary who is not passive, but who is actively hunting. He wrote in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." Seeking. It's a word that deserves some attention. Temptation is not merely something that we stumble into like weather. There is intent behind it, targeting, patience. And the same enemy who hunts individuals has blinded a whole world system. As Paul writes, "For the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not." That's 2 Corinthians 4:4. A blinded world does not see the war. That's the point of the blinding. Here's where the conventional picture of evil breaks down completely. If the enemy's work were carried out by cackling villains, it would be easy to resist. The enemy's work is not carried out that way, and Scripture warns us that it never would be. According to 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, "And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light." Evil rarely arrives looking evil. It arrives looking compassionate, reasonable, progressive, safe. And it does not need bad people to advance it. It prefers good ones. Consider the most sobering exchange in the Gospels on the point. Peter had just confessed Jesus as the Christ, the Son of the living God. Minutes later, out of genuine love, he pulled Jesus aside to protest the coming crucifixion, and Jesus turned to him and said, in Matthew chapter 16, verse 23, "Get thee behind me, Satan, thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but those that be of men." Peter was not a villain. He was a devoted disciple who became, for a moment, a mouthpiece for the enemy through his own good intentions. If it can happen to Peter, standing in the physical presence of Christ, then we should abandon any confidence that it cannot happen to us. The mechanism of this deception is usually not seduction into obvious sin, it is redefinition. Isaiah pronounced, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness." He said that in chapter 5, verse 20. Once the labels are switched, good people pursue evil ends while believing themselves righteous, and no other persuasion is required. Add to this the slow corruption of proximity, for, according to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33, evil communications corrupt good manners. And you have the complete toolkit by which decent people are conscripted into wickedness without ever signing up. It would be comforting to stop there with a war between external enemies and deceived but innocent believers. Scripture does not permit us that comfort. The prophet Jeremiah delivers that diagnosis in chapter 17, verse 9. "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" Our fallen nature means that the enemy does not have to break down the door. He knocks. And something inside us wants to answer. Even Paul, arguably the most spiritually accomplished man of his generation, confessed the war inside himself. In Romans chapter 7, verse 19, a verse that you really got to listen to carefully and think about hard, because it can be contrary the one to the other. That's Galatians chapter 5, verse 17. We are not neutral ground being fought over by two outside armies. Part of us is already sympathetic to the invasion. Any strategy for resisting spiritual wickedness that does not account for our own predisposition to rationalize it will fail, because the most persuasive voice for compromise is usually our own. Nowhere is that internal sympathy more visible than in what we choose to consume. The modern believer has largely made peace with entertainment that previous generations of Christians would have instantly recognized as spiritual poison. The occult, repackaged as fantasy. Degradation, repackaged as comedy. Darkness, repackaged as prestige drama. And the justification is nearly always the same. I am mature enough. It does not affect me. I can handle it. Paul answered that justification directly. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, he said, "Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall." Lest he fall. The confidence that we are immune is not evidence of strength. It is the first casualty of the battle. Solomon asked the obvious question, can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? He said that in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 27. Nobody believes the answer is yes when the subject is literal fire, yet we believe it constantly when the subject is what we set before our eyes and ears night after night. David, a king with every entertainment of his age at his disposal, set a different standard. In Psalm 101, verse 3, he said, "I will set no wicked thing before mine eyes. I hate the work of them that turn aside. It shall not cleave to me." Notice that David's standard was input discipline, not output confidence. He did not claim he could watch wickedness without effect. He refused to set it before his eyes at all, and Paul echoed him by commanding believers to make not provision for the flesh. The reason nobody thinks the binge is changing them is precisely what makes it effective. Desensitization is discipleship in the wrong direction, one episode at a time. And when direct corruption fails, the enemy has a quieter weapon that works on nearly everyone. In the parable of the sower, Jesus describes seed that is not killed by persecution or stolen by the wicked one, but simply choked. In Luke chapter 8, verse 14, he writes, "And that which fell among thorns are they which, when they have heard, go forth and are choked with cares and riches and pleasures of this life, and bring no fruit to perfection." Cares, riches, pleasures. Not one of those three is a sin in itself, which is what makes them so useful. Martha was not sinning when Jesus told her that she was careful and troubled about many things, while Mary had chosen the one thing that was needful. She was busy. She was productive. She was distracted from the Lord, sitting in her own house. John draws the boundary without apology in 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him." James goes further still, calling friendship with the world enmity with God. The enemy doesn't need you to worship him. He just needs you too distracted to worship God. An inbox, a feed, a queue of shows, a calendar full of good and urgent things will accomplish that just as reliably as any temptation. Paul did not end Ephesians 6 with the diagnosis. Praise God for that. He prescribed the remedy in the verses that follow, and it's worth noticing its shape. The whole armor of God, the girdle of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation. They're almost all entirely defensive. There is one offensive weapon, the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. The believer's only offensive weapon in this war is Scripture itself, which is exactly why everything that pulls us away from the Word, however busy or entertaining or respectable, is pulling us toward disarmament. The counter strategy is not complicated, though it is costly. In Romans chapter 12, verse 2, "And be not conformed to this world, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." The mind is renewed by what it feeds on. "Thy word have I hid in mine heart, that I might not sin against thee." That's Psalm 119, verse 11. And James pairs the promise with the command, "Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you." That's chapter 4, verses 7 and 8. resistance, and nearness to God are not two strategies. They are one. Paul leaves us with the filter that should govern everything that we allow into our minds. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Spiritual wickedness is all around us, but that is not a reason for fear. It is a reason for clarity about who the real enemy is, honesty about our own fallen nature, and seriousness about the armor we have been given. Here's a place to start. This week, take one input in your life, one show, one feed, one habit, and hold it up against Philippians 4:8. If it does not survive that comparison, then you already know what to do with it. May God bless you.